right? And he would bend over and do that.
My dad was
Or the kitchen knife.
constantly at war with dandelions.
Yeah. And my mom, to this day, at 83, will go out there. Even though I gave her grandpa's weeder, she'd still...
And in between pavers.
Yeah, they're
trying to get
the
him
worst.
This is called
pavers.
a Nisaku, and it is a Japanese stainless steel knife. Over there, they don't refer to it as a tool, they call it a knife. Now this one is created by our friends at Sunjo, and they build it to the same specifications as Japanese master gardeners. This thing is awesome. At $49.76, it starts with a really nice hardwood extended handle. And this thing has got some weight to it. And then you see a corrugated steel blade that is hand hewn and then rippled. So the edge is not straight across, it has a little ripple to it. And it gets in and cuts in areas that no other tool I've ever seen can cut. I'm gonna hold the blade, the stick straight, right straight at the camera. And you'll notice that the blade angles in, see? So it makes it so easy to edge with this thing, to be able to chop, to get weeds. Nancy, I love this tool.
I know, I do too.
Yeah.
I think this is such an awesome tool, and it's by Nisaku, who are experts when it comes to helping you get your precision gardens looking beautiful so that you're not having to battle those weeds. You can do them from standing up. It's so much easier, and because you've got this great stainless steel blade and the design, it's gonna make your weeding so much easier.
Every year and every season, I take a garden hose, it's not even hooked up, I'm not running water through it, and I use it as a flexible line to lay out in front of my gardens.
Right.
Because you know how in the fall things start to get overgrown and you want to get your mulch to be exactly precise? And then I just follow along with my garden hose and I cut in around so that I can get the grass. And it's so much easier with this.
Right, exactly.
We've got all these automated, powerful tools nowadays. There's sometimes when just a great basic hand tool is the best thing ever.
It's so true, and especially for someone that doesn't have a lot of room for power tools. I love that this is something that's going to do a lot of work for you in your garden as we've been kind of pulling out the weeds, but it also doesn't take up a lot of room to store.
Right.
And it's something that you can use that, you know, Pat was talking about the screwdriver, or I was saying the butter knife to get the weeds out of the pavers, or a lot of people resort to squirting chemicals on there. If you have pets or small
I've
children,
got dogs, I can't do that.
Don't want to do that. This is going to make that work so much easier. Chopping away too. You can chop away at some of those really thick woody kind of weeds. There you're clearing out a whole bunch of different weeds that have grown and kind of taken over a flower bed. I also am absolutely driven crazy when I see clumps of grass in my flower beds. You don't belong there and you need to be gone. And so this tool is going to help get rid of all of those problems. Moss. I actually have moss. These weeds that you're seeing here, I quote unquote harvested from my garden yesterday using this tool.
You know, it's crazy. We're not even near spring. We're 49 days away from spring. And I'll be darned if I don't have weeds in my garden already.
I know. Well,
How
all of
crazy is
these
that?
I got from my garden.
Yeah.
Here we are, January, and I had weeds growing in my garden.
It's the perfect length tool.
Right, exactly.
It's thin enough to get between bricks, between pavers.
Now this is what I did for the moss. You just scrape it off the top. It makes it so easy because you've got that corrugated edge. I'm using the point to kind of go through. I'm not bending down. I'm just getting rid of it. And then I just scrape it off. I'm not spraying anything. I'm just using the point. Do you notice how I'm just kind of putting that point in there? And again, as you had mentioned, Dan, it's got that corrugated edge. I'll run my finger on it so you can hear
It's really good for thick grass.
It is.
To be able to, I've got a stone walkway that goes from our front patio to a little bridge and a stream. And every time it seems that I cut, I've got to trim along that because the grass grows over the top of that.
Oh, doesn't that drive you crazy?
Well, it used to. It doesn't anymore. I had this on the air in August with you, and it sold. It blew out at $49.75. It's finally back into stock, but I've got to point out that that Easy Pay payment opportunity that goes away at the end of the day, and that means. Right now, for $9.95, we ship it and it's on its way. The best time to get to your weeds is before the other stuff starts to grow.
Right, exactly.
And the reason why I say that is right now you can spot the weeds because they're the only things that are growing.
Right, exactly. And you know, this is such a comfortable tool to use too.
Yeah.
I want you to notice
I like that wooden handle.
that the handle not only is a nice sturdy wooden handle, but it's also varnished. So I'm not going to be getting splinters. So, you know, that's also something when you have other garden tools where the handle isn't finished, if it gets any kind of, you know, weather on it or anything, it's going to start splintering, and that's really uncomfortable. But look at how it gets into those pavers that you normally you're on your hands and knees with a screwdriver or with that butter knife. There it is, just chopping through and getting rid of that weed at the root, and that's because of that precision blade that is milled so that it's got a beveled edge as well as it's got that corrugated edge. So you have something that's really going to be a workhorse in your garden.
Right. I'll also say this. How many hand tools do you know that have a 2-year warranty to them? But this has a 2-year warranty. So that corrugated stainless steel does not need to be sharpened. And the reason for using corrugated is that it actually gives it hundreds of little edges instead of just one straight slicing cut. And it's called a Nisaku. It's the way they weed for champion master gardeners over in Japan. You'll also notice, again, I'm gonna hold, sorry guys, that was my fault. I'm gonna hold this straight to the camera. You'll notice that it's beveled almost 45 degrees. Maybe it'll make sense if I hold it that way. So it does have a curve to it or an angle to it so that when you're working, you've got more precision. I'm pretty good at this. I can go through an entire line and just cut.
Right,
and
exactly.
And it does the job. It also allows you to get underneath a weed so that you're popping it out and you're getting the entire length of the root.
Right, and if the ground is a little bit tough or anything, what I do is I'll use the pointed end, I'll stick it in there, and then I'll leverage it back. I'll just kind of bend back like this, and that pops it out too.
Yeah, most people don't realize, I'm gonna put this down for a second. Most people don't realize that on a weed, that the tap root goes from ground level down to an equal height of whatever you have from ground level up.
Right.
So.
And you don't want to be just cutting it right here.
No, because then it comes right, then it comes right back.
Because then it's just gonna come right back. Now that angled blade helps over here on the pavers. You saw, now my moss is gone, but imagine there's moss on my pavers and I'm holding it like this. If it was a straight edge, I'd have to be bending way down low and squatting. Now I don't have to. I can use that motion to scrape the top to get off that moss and everything that has grown in there. I use the point to get in between the pavers. I'm not getting down on my hands and knees. I'm getting rid of it by just putting that point right in there to get rid of those weeds where they are growing between pavers and bricks, which is such a tough thing to get rid of.
It's a really gratifying tool to use.
Oh, it is. It is.
Okay.
Yeah, I go out there and sometimes I'm just like, what weeds can I get rid of today?
It does come with a little plastic case to go over the top, and that's just to help protect the blade.
Yes.
I'll be honest, I lost my case like in the first day that I had it by accident,
Right.
and I've never had mine rust. I had an opportunity to sell it one time, and it was back in August. They blew out of here. We've had over 800 that have been ordered today. Get it early in the season because your weeds are the first thing to grow.
Yeah.